cosmos or the creation is made to order. That is, it is moving by a plan, it is not moving random. And it is in a process of genesis or evolution, always, from within itself. We here call it prapanch, which means something that came out of the five elements being the basis. Something that is beyond prapanch could be related as cosmos. We call it Brahmanda. When the yogis saw the nature of the cosmos as to how it's evolving from within itself and its ability to evolve is quite limitless, they were tempted to make their own cosmogenic process. Many wonderful attempts, which work incredibly well, have been made in various parts of this country and also in certain other parts of the world. Essentially coming from this part of the world, people went and created, you must see Delphi, where they'd created to create a miniature Kashi. Everything in creation, one way or the other, is a micro replica of the cosmos itself. That goes for the human body too. Dhyana linga itself is just that manifestation. Dhyana linga is a small capsule of cosmos. If one is willing, it is willing to open up endlessly. Because it's a device. It's a device that facilitates the ultimate possibility. There have been many instruments like this in this country. For example, a living one is Dhyana linga itself. To create that, it took our life. To create a city like that is a mad ambition and they did it thousands of years ago. When Athens was not even thought of, Kashi was. When Rome did not even exist in people's minds, Kashi was. When Egypt did not exist, Kashi was. That ancient. And they built a kind of a instrument in the form of a city, which is a kind of instrument which brings a union between the micro and the macro.
What is that draws millions of pilgrims from all around the world to Kashi? There are so many myths around it, and there are so many realities around it. This truth has always intrigued me. When I hear about Kashi, one thing is very clear, that there is something very exceptional about this place. In our tradition, this is the most significant place that a person can live and die in. What is the truth behind the legend of Kashi? They say Lord Shiva lived here himself. All this drew me to come to Kashi and spend time with someone who could unveil the realities of Kashi, can mystify and demystify Kashi for us. One thing which describes him for me is that he's absolutely authentic, full of energy, full of wit. On one hand, he's devastatingly logical, On another hand, he deepens the mystery of the whole world. He does not dissect it, but he makes it very approachable for you. He's someone who is very unconventional, mystic. He's something which you can touch, feel. He's here with you. He talks the language of today. He talks the language of science. He talks the language of logic. And that's what makes him absolutely special. And I'm privileged to have him here with us and would love to spend some time.
Once, Brahma, the Lord of creation, and Vishnu, the sustainer of the universe, got into argument about which of them was the more important. Seeing their quarrel grow intense, the other gods went and pleaded with Shiva to put an end to this futile battle. Shiva took the form of a huge column of light. Piercing through the earth, the fiery column blazed far into the sky and soared into the heavens. Astounded, Brahma and Vishnu decided to find the source and the height of this brilliant, mysterious pillar of light. Brahma took the form of a goose and flew high into the sky. Vishnu took the form of a boar and dug deep into the earth. They searched for the end of the pillar for many eons. Defeated and humbled, Vishnu returned with folded hands, surrendering to the eternal nature of Shiva. However, Brahma, not wanting to admit that he was defeated, decided to lie. He swore that he had seen the crown of the pillar, and the Ketaki flower bore false witness to his claim. Shiva, enraged at Brahma's lie, cursed him, saying that he would never receive worship. This is why, even today, there are no temples dedicated to Brahma. And that is how Kashi became the city of light.
Sadhguru, one has heard so much about this city. Since time immemorial, people have talked about the significance of Varanasi. What is so special about this city? Also, one hears about the design of this city. There were some yantras and there was some thought process behind the city. Can you please elaborate on how this city was created and what is the significance of it?
Yantra means a machine or a mechanism. Normally every machine that we build, we have built essentially to enhance who we are. So whenever you create a machine, you're taking a certain part of the earth. Everything that we have created is dug out of this planet one way or the other. When you take material from this planet, there is a certain inertia to that machine. So when we think of something that has to function for perpetually or for an extraordinary length of time, we want to create a machine which does not have this need for inertia. So we try to create an energy machine. This is what you traditionally know as yantras. Yantras can be very simple yantras. A simple triangle is a basic yantra. Various types of arrangements can be done to build different levels of machines which will function for your well-being. So this Kashi is a phenomenal yantra like never before or never after, to create a large human body, a magnificent human body which doesn't have the inertia of carrying physicality with it, so that it will be on all the time and it can just download the whole process. Solar system is like a potter's wheel. Because it's turning in a certain way, this manifested this way. This is a pot that has been churned out of this potter's wheel of solar system. So it's all very related. The diameter of the sun and the distance between the sun and the earth is 108 times. And within your own system, out of 114 chakras, 112 are in the physical body. But when it comes to doing something, there are only 108 that you can work with. The other four will just blossom if you nurture the rest. There's nothing to do about them. So there are 108 systems of yoga to activate 108 chakras in the body. The whole city was built like that. Because it's made of 5 elements and generally it's considered Shiva being a yogi and a Bhuteshwara, his number is 5. So, they built it to the dimensions of 5, the 5 crochets and the diameter and the radius of the place is 5 crochets. Like this, they built many layers. So this is showing you the fundamental geometry of Kashi. So, at the edge of the Ganga is where it begins, and these circles describe the parikrama, the outermost parikrama, totally measuring to 168 miles. The city itself is built like this, and temple is a smaller manifestation of that. This is the geometry of the original temple. It is absolutely complex. The core of it does not exist anymore. There are 72,000 shrines, the number of nadis. So they built 70,000 and they created sufficient corners around, angles around to make it multiply itself into 72,000. So it is the number of nadis in the human body. The whole process is like a manifestation of a mega human body to make contact with a larger cosmic body. Geometrically, a perfect manifestation of how the cosmos or the macrocosm and the microcosm can meet. They created an instrument in the form of a city. To create a tower of light, to create a connection with the cosmic manifestation, and here we are, the microcosm, to connect these two things, they created 468 temples. They're shrines. The basic temples are 54 for Shiva, 54 for Shakti or Devi. This is because in the human body itself, we see that one half is Pingala, other is Ida, this is masculine, this is feminine. This is why Shiva being represented as half Ardhanarishwar, half female body and half male body. So they created the whole city like this body, and these 468 came because for 13 months in a year, in the lunar calendar, every 3 years there's an extra month. 13 months and 9 planets into 4 directions or 4 fundamental elements. 5 elements are there, we don't do much about Akash. Your physical body is seen as 72% water, 12% earth, 6% air, 4% fire, another 6% is space. So if you have mastery over this, all yogic system comes from an essential science called Bhuta Shuddhi. That means mastering or cleansing the elements within you. If you take certain mastery over your elements, suddenly you will see wonderful things will happen to you. I can show you thousands of people who walked out of their physical ailments simply because they do some simple Bhuta Shuddhi process. So based on that, they created this. Whatever we saw as Sapta Rishi Puja, in tandem, in 468 temples, these things would be happening. And it would create such a phenomenal energy that everybody was longing to be in this place. And if you're born in India, your only dream is to go to Kashi. And it not only became a spiritual center, this was a center for music, arts, craft, and a commercial center and an educational center. The greatest minds in this country came from this place. Albert Einstein said, the Western sciences, the modern science couldn't take a single step without the basis of Indian mathematics. and that mathematic came from this place. The basis for that mathematic is here. And these things, the yantra, the Vedas, they created the city is so meticulous. Geometrically, mathematically, it's so perfect, so absolutely perfect, that everybody wanted to be here because it created such a phenomena around itself. It's a misfortune that we were not alive when it was in full glory. It must have been the most phenomenal place for it to draw people from across the world. People have been traveling here from across the world for thousands of years. Gautama came here to give his first teaching. The Chinese traveler who came after Gautama, he says, Nalanda University is just a small drop of knowledge that fell out of Kashi. And Nalanda University has still been recognized as the greatest place of learning, not only of those times, they say even in today's world, you cannot compare another university with this. There were 30,000 monks studying in Nalanda and over 10,000 faculty, all kinds of subjects, every kind, Eastern, Western, every kind of subject. Mathematics reached its highest peak. All the people that you hear of, Aryabhatas and so many others, they all came from this region, all generated by the culture that was alive in Kashi. This level of intelligence and human competence came because of this instrument which allowed them to make contact with dimensions which are not usually available to a human being. It is not something that they logically thought up. They saw the existence the way it is. By seeing the nature of the creation, human intelligence matured in ways that nobody had ever imagined possible. Even today, it's in common language, but they may not know what's behind this. They say Kashi is not on the ground, it is on Shiva's Trishul up there. Because they created a physical structure which in turn generated an energy structure. And the energy structure is not on the ground, it is above. So because of this, they said, Kashi is not on the earth, it is above the earth. So it's because of that this whole tradition came up. If you go to Kashi, that is it. You don't want to leave the place, because when you get connected to the cosmic nature, why would you want to go anywhere else?
Sadhguru, the first thing you notice when you enter Kashi is the number of temples. There are many, many, many temples here. So many of them. Why have so many temples? Is it that this is a place for many gods? You primarily hear about this being the place which belongs to Lord Shiva. But what about other temples? There are so many other temples here. It would be great to know more about that.
According to iconographic proof, the oldest piece of iconography or a coin which depicts Shiva is about 12,400 years old, where Shiva is sitting in Siddhasana like this and with a bull next to him. 12,400 years ago, if they had to make a coin, by then he was already an icon. That means maybe there are a few thousand years before that. The legend of Kashi 100% goes by the fundamental that he himself lived here. This is his winter place. He lived as an ascetic in the upper regions of Himalayas. He liked it there. He didn't mind the cold. If it got too cold, he smeared himself with ash from the cremation grounds and that kept him going. But when he got married to a princess, compromises have to be made. And being a graceful man, he decided he will move to the plains. As this was the most fabulously built city of the time, naturally he decided his new bride and him should move to Kashi and no other place. And he moved to Kashi. He said, this is it. this is my abode. And he himself took the effort to consecrate the space into a powerful field of energy which still lives. There's a beautiful story. Shiva himself left Kashi because of some political reasons. Yes. There was a king called Devotees. Devotees became a phenomenal king. So, because the gods were afraid that Kashi may lose its reverberance if it's not properly managed, so they asked him to become the king. But he put a condition that if I have to be the king, Shiva has to leave the place. Because anyway people will go after him, I will sit in the palace, what kind of king am I? Shiva has to leave. So Shiva, along with Parvati, left to Mount Mandala. He went there and he could not stay. He wanted to come back to Kashi, but there's a political condition that he cannot come back to Kashi. So he said, get this Devotees out, I want to go. So he sent 64 yoginis. He said, somehow corrupt the king. Once we find some fault in him, we can send him packing and I'll come back. They came here, they entrenched themselves all over the society, wanting to corrupt the society, but they loved the place so much, they forgot the mission. They didn't go back. Then he sent Surya Deva. He came here, he loved the place so much. People, all the Aditya temples are for him. He came and he loved it so much and he didn't go back. Then he sent Brahma. Brahma himself came and he loved it and he didn't go back. Then he said, I cannot trust any of these people. And he sent his own ganas. They cannot forget Shiva, they are his people. But they loved the place so much. They thought, this is the only place Shiva should live, not Mount Mandara. And they became Dwarapalakas of this city. They said, anyway he has to come, there's no point we going back. Then Devodasa was tempted with mukti. He did not fall for any kind of other things they created, corruptions. He was incorruptible, but he was tempted with mukti and he took it. Then Shiva came back. So, there's a temple called Avimukteshwara because Shiva promised he will never leave Kashi. Whatever happens, I will not leave Kashi. So these are all stories to tell you how much they long to be here, not because of pleasures, because of the possibility that the city offered. Because the city was not just a dwelling place, it was a mechanism to go beyond all limitations. It was a mechanism for this tiny little organism to connect with the larger organism of the cosmos.
The 8 Kal Bhairava temples are located in 8 cardinal directions of Kashi, protecting the whole mandala. These are Unmat Bhairava, Krodhana Bhairava, Kapala Bhairava, Asitanga Bhairava, Chanda Bhairava, Ruru Bhairava, Bhishana Bhairava and Samhara Bhairava. In the Kashi Khanda Purana, the Kashi Kshetra is said to be standing upon Shiva's Trishul, and 3 main temples form the 3 points of the trident. These 3 main temples act as the fulcrum for the mandala. They are Omkareshwara in the north, Vishveshwara in the middle and Kedareshwara in the south. Each temple forms their own khanda or sphere of influence. Along the 8 directions, 56 Ganesha temples have been established in 7 concentric circles. Their walk of devotion to visit these 56 shrines takes the pilgrims in a natural clockwise spiral that ends at the Kashi Vishwanath temple. There are also 64 Yogini temples, 12 sun temples, 9 temples for Navdurgas, 9 Chandi temples, and many others which form the 468 major shrines of Kashi. The 12 Aditya or sun temples are also located in accordance with the transition of the sun through half of the year from Dakshinayana to Uttarayana. The Panch Kroshi Yatra is one of the most significant Padyatras done by pilgrims around the sacred Kashi Mandala. Along this route, there are 108 shrines to which pilgrims travel by foot. There are 5 major villages where pilgrims can rest and even stay overnight. Even today, gold trees built by kings a few hundred years ago are still intact. As one travels in a clockwise direction on the Panch Kroshi route, all the temples are located on the right side of the road, marking the outer limit of the Panch Kroshi sphere. The Panch Kroshi Yatra begins with a dip in the river Ganga at Manikarnika Ghat. The first major temple on this route is the Adi Karmadheshwar temple. The linga here was consecrated by sage Karmadheshwar. In the Kashi Khanda Purana, it is said that yakshas and ganas always lived on the trees and near water bodies. On this route, their shrines have also been placed in the same way. The second temple on the route is the Bhim Chandi Mandir.
Bhim Chandi Mahadevi Sarvarachas Bhakshini Muni Tran Kare Devi Namaste Stu.
This Durga temple is said to have been established by the Gandharva who worshipped Devi here. She is said to protect all devotees who seek her grace as her own child, blessing them with health and well-being. The third is Dehali Vinayak temple. This temple is directly in line with the Kashi Vishwanath temple, marking the halfway mark of the yatra. It is said that before entering Kashi, Lord Rama meditated here. The fourth is the Rameshwaram temple. This temple is said to be a replica of the Rameshwaram temple in the south. It is situated on the banks of the river Varuna and marks the northernmost point of the yatra. It says in the scriptures that all the lingas of the Kashi Mandala fall under 42 kinds. In the Kapildhara temple, all 42 kinds are there in a single form. The Pasupani Vinayaka and Kapilidhara temples mark the end of the Panch Kroshi Yatra.
Sadhguru, this is also called the city of death. In every Hindu household, you hear that one has to come to Kashi, either to die or after one dies to do the final rites here. Why is this tradition? Why do we hear about moksha and nirvana and all those words associated with Kashi? I would love to know why Kashi is so significant and so linked with life and death.
Most people do not choose to live in a great manner. They have an aspiration, at least they want to die in a great way. Dying gloriously means death leading not just to disposal of body, but death leading to an ultimate liberation. That little aspiration brought millions of people to Kashi to die. It almost became like a city of death. People want to die here.
What is exactly death? Is the decaying of body or the dying of body is death? On one hand, my body is dying, on my thoughts, my ideas are becoming something which the world suppose embraces, and they live without me. So is it, would you call it death? What would you define death as?
Have you ever died? Did you die and come back? No. In your experience, no, isn't it? Somebody else may say so, it doesn't matter. In your experience, no. Did you ever see somebody who died and came back?
I haven't seen anyone.
No. Have you ever seen a dead man?
Yeah.
You seen a dead man?
I've seen dead body.
Dead body you have seen. Have you seen a dead man?
I don't think so.
So you have not seen one, you have not met one, nor have you experienced. So where did you get this idea that you will die?
It is learned thought.
That's what. It is a fiction of the ignorant, created by the ignorant. There's no such thing as death. There's just life, life and life, moving from one dimension to another. So only when people are ignorant and their vision of life and their perception of life is very limited to physical nature of the existence, then they will think of life and death. Otherwise, there's just life and life. It's common knowledge that one is born. The life process, you didn't just pop out like pop and fell here like a baby. Slowly you evolved in the mother's womb, isn't it? Life slowly infused itself into the flesh, and what is your mother's flesh slowly became you, because you invaded that part and that became you. It's happened slowly. So even when you die, you ever spent some time with a dead body? You will see up to 11 to 14 days, fingernails will grow, facial hair will grow. All hair will grow, but because if somebody has shaved, you can see it's growing. The prana doesn't leave the system immediately. You're dead for practical purposes. For the world, you are dead. For yourself, you are not fully dead. That will take 11 to 14 days. That's the reason the karmas and kriyas are done the way it is done. When you burn the body, it's just instantly out, everything is finished. You must go to Manikarnik Ghat and see. On an average in Kashi, every day about 40 to 50 bodies are burnt. Just sit there for 3 days. If you sit in sadhana, there for just for 3 days, you will see what a difference it will make. Simply because this energy is being forcefully ejected from the bodies. It is almost like human sacrifice, because the energy is being forcefully thrown out and there's a phenomenal amount of energy, and if you know how to use it, This is the reason why all the certain types of yogis are doing sadhana, including Shiva himself, always doing sadhana in the cremation ground, because without harming any life, you still can make use of life. And especially when fire is there, the element fire creates a certain aura or a certain sense of akash around it always. Akash is significant for human perception. Only where there is akash, a strong presence of akash, one's ability to perceive is enhanced. So here both are happening. One thing is lot of energy being ejected out of the remaining aspect of prana is being thrown out because body is being destroyed, the foundations are being taken away. And there is fire. Together, it is a very conducive atmosphere for one who wants to know, for one who wants to heighten his own energies. So cremation grounds have always been so.
Sadhguru, also one more thing one hears about and a lot is Kala Bhairav and death. I have not read much about it, but have heard a lot about it. Would like to know the connection between Kala Bhairav and death.
Mahadeva Maheshwara Bhairava Sarveshwara Mahadeva Sarveshwara Bhairava Mukteshwara Mahadeva Mukteshwara Bhairava Kala Bhairava Kala Kala Bhairava Maharatre.
Upon hearing Brahma's lie that he had reached the very top of the eternal pillar of light, a very fierce, terrible form of Shiva emerged. He was Kal Bhairav, the Lord of Death, who ripped off Brahma's fifth head in an instant. This, however, made him guilty of Brahma Hatya, the sin of killing a Brahmin, and a Brahma's skull immediately stuck to Bhairava's hand. To get rid of the skull, Bhairava took on the Kapala Vrata, or the vow of the skull. To absolve himself of the sin, he wandered across the land, using the skull as a begging bowl. Seeing this, Vishnu advised Bhairava that returning to Kashi, where he had revealed his true form, was his only salvation. As soon as Bhairava entered Kashi, the skull fell. The ground upon which this skull fell was known as Kapala Mochana Tirtha, where the original Kal Bhairav temple was established. Here, Bhairava remains as Papa Bhakshana, or the sin eater, consuming all the sins of the devotees and pilgrims who came to seek refuge in him. Thus, Kashi is known as Mahasmashana, the ultimate cremation ground.
Right now we are in front of Manikarnik. Right next to that is the Kala Bhairav temple. What you see there is Kala Bhairav temple. Kal Bhairav means… Bhairav is one who takes you beyond fear. Kal Bhairav is the fear of time. It is the fear of time, it's not the fear of death. Time is the basis of fear. If you had limitless amount of time, it wouldn't matter, isn't it? It is time is running out. if something happens, time is the issue. If something doesn't happen, time is the issue. That is why Kal Bhairav, if you are free from the fear of time, you are free from fear itself, absolutely. So Kal Bhairav is the deadly form of Shiva. It was guaranteed, if you come to Kashi, you will attain to mukti. It doesn't matter what kind of a lousy creature you have been all your life. So all the lousy creatures started coming because they lived badly and they want to die gloriously. So he said, there needs to be some check. So he took the form of Kal Bhairav. It's called Bhairavi Yatana. That means when the moment of death comes, for all that you have been, your whole many lifetimes plays out in a moment with great intensity. And whatever pleasures and sufferings and pains that need to happen to you will all happen. It would have spread over many lifetimes, but all that will happen to you in a microsecond, but with the kind of intensity that you cannot hold. So this is called as Bhairavi Yatana. Yatana means ultimate suffering, it's something that happens to you in hell. He will make it happen to you here. So when you want to do that kind of a job, you need a right kind of costume. Shiva put on the right kind of costume and became Kal Bhairav to create Bhairavi Yatana for you, to create such phenomenal pain that you have not imagined possible, but just for a moment, so that after that, nothing of the past remains in you.
It is said that whoever commits a sin in the city of Kashi will be doomed by Kal Bhairav to wander as a pishacha in a tortured, disembodied state. Even for such tormented beings, the city of Kashi offers liberation at the Pishacha Mochan temple. This wretched state is far worse than that of the Bhairavi Yatana, as the torturous lifespan of a pishacha is 3 lakh years. Pishacha Mochan, said to have once been a pishacha himself, was assigned by Kal Bhairava to carry out this role of delivering even the most sinful into ultimate liberation.
Sadhguru, with such a powerful mechanism set up for a human being to evolve and be liberated in this place, is there a need to do any rituals in Kashi? Because, what I hear from you is that there is a great design to this place, the yantra you talked about. So your mere presence here should be enough. Still, I see many people come here to do rituals of various kinds. What is the significance of such rituals?
Kashi is full of rituals. It was the center of rituals. There is nothing as surefire as doing something internally. That is the best way to do it. So once you've been initiated into your process, that is what you should depend on. Why these things are built is, it's for the public. They do not know how to do anything with themselves, but they know enough that something needs to be done with them. So when that is the case, an instrument like this and the complex rituals that came along with the instrument are very useful because it handles people en masse. There was something called a Saptarishi Puja. Saptarishis means the 7 sages who were the first disciples of Shiva. They were to leave to carry this message and go. When they asked him, how should we worship you? He taught them a method. He said, you do it this way, I will be there. That method was taught to them and they taught to the people, and today it continues in the same tradition, the way Shiva taught it to the 7 sages. That process they started off. And they did it in such a way, stacks and stacks of energy they built. This may not be tangible for other people, for me it's a living reality. and people will just burst into tears, they don't know what it is. Those who are doing it, they do not know how it happens. But they're sticking to the procedure that's been taught to them and making it happen. See, the guy who's driving this boat does not know how to build an engine, he's just learned to use it and it works. So they just learn to use it. As the Saptarishis would have done, 7 people sat down there and they did this and it was a phenomena. I've never seen anything so energetic in any temple. I've been to quite a few. Wherever I feel it's an energy center, I go. I don't go there to pray, I don't go to ask, I've never done abhisekams and pujas in any temple in my life, okay? But this is a phenomenal science. You must come and sit in the Dhyanalinga temple. No ritual, no mantra, no puja, no nothing. It's always in total silence. Just come and sit there and see, because it's essentially created for meditativeness. People who have no idea what's meditation, people who have no instruction, without an instruction, you can make people meditative. So these are technologies, these are not belief systems.
Great.
Technology is gone bad.
My last question to you is, when somebody comes to Kashi, what is a must one should experience here?
First of all, to come prepared a little bit. I would say, if you're traveling to Kashi, at least for 3 months, get initiated to some simple meditative process. Meditate for some time, make yourself little more sensitive and come. Leave all your beliefs at home and come.
Thank you, It was really a pleasure.
This is the most complex and sophisticated machine on the planet, that's Kashi. It's phenomenal that somebody created a place like this. We bow down to them for the intelligence behind it, the competence behind it, the vision behind it, the compassion behind it, to make it available to everybody. This is what the world needs, not dogma, not philosophies, not belief systems. Human ability to go beyond our sense organs and be able to perceive something which is right now considered beyond. This is the only way a human being will know. This is the only way a human consciousness will expand. This is the only way a human being will evolve beyond narrow divisions that have happened in human societies. But those instruments are being systematically destroyed. It's important that these things are brought back. Past we have survived. The question is, the future, will we survive? This has been unfortunate history of humanity, that the greatest things on the planet will not survive, the crudest things will survive. Unless societies, individual human beings take care to nourish them. It's very important. If you want a refined society for tomorrow, for our children and their children to live, if we want a refined society, it's very important we nurture the sophistication that is around. Otherwise, crude things will dominate anyway. Very easy to manifest the crude, very difficult to manifest the sophistication because it takes thousands of years to evolve it. So, it is a responsibility that we have as a generation of people to bring out the subtle aspects of life and somehow to make them live to whatever extent everybody can do. If we cannot create another Kashi, the existing one we should preserve to whatever extent we can and create more instruments through which human beings can connect to larger possibility. We don't need more books to read. We need more practical instruments and methods through which a human being can expand his sense of who he is right now.
वाराणसी पुरपतिं भज विश्वनाथं, भज विश्वनाथं, भज विश्वनाथं, भज विश्वनाथं, भज विश्वनाथं। भुजगभूषणभूषिताङ्गम् व्याघ्राजिनाम्बरधरं जटिलं त्रिनेत्रम् पाशाङ्कुशाभयवरप्रदशूलपाणिम् वाराणसीपुरपतिं भज विश्वनाथम् सीतां सुशोभितकिरीटविराजमानम् फालेक्षणानलविशोषितपञ्चबाणम् नागादिपारचितभासुरकर्णपूरम् वाराणसीपुरपतिं भज विश्वनाथम् भज विश्वनाथम् भज विश्वनाथम् भज विश्वनाथम् भज विश्वनाथम्